My mornings with Lily were my anchor. The sunlight streaming into our small living room, the smell of toast, her soft giggles as we read her favorite book. This was my life now, carefully built, brick by brick, after years of struggle. My sobriety was the foundation, and I cherished it more than anything. Every day felt like a gift, a promise I had made to myself and to Lily. Then the phone would ring, and it would be Clara, my sister. She always started with warm words, telling me how proud she was of my progress. But then, a subtle shift. "You look tired, Maya. Are you sure you're not pushing yourself too hard? Recovery can be so fragile." Her words were like tiny needles, always finding a way to prick at my hard-won peace. I felt a familiar unease settle in my chest. I remembered countless moments like this from our childhood. Clara, always the one in charge, always knowing best. Once, she convinced our parents I had broken her favorite doll, even though I hadn't touched it. I got grounded, and she got extra allowance. It was a pattern, a quiet way she had of making me feel like I was always the problem, always a step behind. A few weeks ago, Clara started offering help. She insisted on watching Lily when I had appointments or organizing my home office. "You need to focus on yourself, Maya," she'd say, with that overly sweet smile. I was overwhelmed with work and Lily, so I agreed. It felt like a small relief, but also like she was stepping into a space I had worked so hard to keep safe and private. After one of Clara's longer visits, a strange feeling crept over me. A familiar, unsettling whisper in my mind. A craving. It was faint, barely there, but it was enough to make my stomach clench. I hadn't felt anything like it in years. I tried to push it away, blaming it on stress from a busy day or just a bad memory resurfacing. It felt inexplicable, like a phantom limb ache. Then I started noticing things. An old book I hadn't seen in ages, one with vivid descriptions of my past life, suddenly appeared on my coffee table. Or a specific brand of sugary soda, something I used to drink constantly during my addiction, would be in the fridge, supposedly a treat from Clara for Lily. I felt a prickle of unease. It was too specific, too close to things I had worked hard to forget. During Clara's next visit, the unease grew. She was talking about her new job, laughing, acting completely normal. But I felt a knot in my stomach. My gut was screaming that something was off, but I couldn't pinpoint it. Every time she looked at me, I felt a strange, cold intensity in her eyes, despite her warm smile. It was unsettling, like a shadow I couldn't quite see. I tried to talk to her about the strange cravings, the odd things appearing in my house. "Clara," I began, "I've been feeling a bit off lately, and some things feel a bit strange." She waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, Maya, don't overthink it. You're just stressed. You know, with your history, it's easy to feel things more intensely." Her words made me doubt myself, making me feel foolish for even bringing it up. After she left, I went to my desk. I always kept my important financial papers in a specific folder, in a specific drawer. I opened it. The folder was there, but it felt different, slightly out of place. And a small, sentimental locket I kept hidden was now on top of a stack of bills. I told myself it was just my imagination, but a cold seed of suspicion began to grow in my mind. Later that week, Clara called again. She started talking about my future, about Lily's. "Have you updated your will, Maya? What about guardians for Lily, just in case? And your savings, are they in a trust?" Her questions were too precise, too pointed, disguised as sisterly concern. A chill ran down my spine. The unease wasn't just a feeling anymore. It was a warning. The dream came like a punch to the gut. I was back there in the murky haze of my past, surrounded by the very things I had fought so hard to escape. The smells, the sounds, the feeling of losing control, it was all so real. I woke up gasping, my heart pounding, sweat on my skin. It had been years since I felt such a vivid, disorienting pull. The fear was a cold, sharp blade. I tried to shake it off, to remind myself it was just a dream, but the echo of it lingered, a dark stain on my morning. Later that day, I was tidying up my bookshelf, a place I rarely touched. Tucked behind a row of old novels, I found it a small, empty pill bottle, the label faded beyond recognition. It wasn't mine. I hadn't had anything like it in my house for years. A jolt went through me, sharp and unwelcome. My hands trembled slightly as I picked it up. It felt like a deliberate reminder, a tiny, insidious seed of my old life planted right in my sanctuary. A craving, faint but undeniable, stirred deep within me. I called Clara, my voice tight with worry. I had a terrible dream, I told her, and I found something strange in my house. I'm feeling really off, like I'm losing my grip. She listened, or seemed to. Oh, Maya, she said, her voice dripping with false sympathy, you're just stressed. You know how sensitive you are. Maybe you just need to relax a little, stop being so rigid with your routine. Her words made me feel foolish, like my very real fear was just an overreaction. Clara insisted I needed a break and invited me to a new spot. It's a trendy place, she chirped, just for harmless fun. But when we arrived, the loud music, the dim lights, the specific smell of cheap perfume and stale cigarettes, it all hit me like a physical blow. It was too close to the environments I had worked so hard to escape. I felt a cold dread settle in my stomach, but Clara just laughed, urging me to live a little. I felt trapped, profoundly uncomfortable. After that night with Clara, a strange exhaustion settled over me. It wasn't just physical tiredness. It was a deep, bone-weary disorientation. My thoughts felt fuzzy, my movements sluggish. I dismissed it as just being tired from a late night, but it felt different, heavier than normal fatigue. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, that my body and mind weren't quite my own, but I couldn't explain why. Clara visited again, bringing what she called fancy non-alcoholic mocktails. She handed me a tall glass, filled with a dark liquid and a slice of lime. It looked exactly like the drinks I used to consume in my darkest days. Just one, she coaxed, her eyes sparkling. It's completely harmless, pure fruit juice. My hand trembled as I took it. The smell, the sight, it was an assault on my senses, a direct challenge to my hard-won peace. I took a small sip, feeling a jolt of alarm. The apathy started to creep in, slow and insidious. I missed my weekly recovery meeting, then my therapy session. It wasn't like me. These were the lifelines I clung to. But a heavy, inexplicable shame washed over me, a feeling that I didn't deserve to be there, that I was a fraud. I told myself I'd go next time, but the motivation felt like it was draining out of me, replaced by a strange, numb resignation. The guilt was crushing. Clara started making more suggestions about my finances. You really should consolidate your savings, Maya, she'd say, and put it into a long-term account. It's much safer. She talked about trusts and investments, always framing it as helpful advice, but her proposals always seemed to tie up my money, making it harder to access. I felt a knot of anxiety tighten in my stomach. It sounded logical, but something about it felt off, like she was trying to gain control. Lily started acting a little differently. She was quieter, sometimes a bit distant after Clara had visited. One evening, she mentioned, Aunt Clara said grown-ups sometimes need help remembering things. Or, Aunt Clara said you seem tired a lot, Mommy. My heart clenched. It was subtle, but it felt like Clara was planting seeds of doubt in my child's mind, subtly undermining my authority and my well-being in Lily's eyes. I felt a surge of protectiveness, mixed with a deep unease. Then, a crucial document related to Lily's school enrollment went missing. I tore my office apart, frantic, knowing I had just seen it. Panic clawed at my throat. I was sure I'd put it in its designated folder. Hours later, I found it not in the folder, but tucked under a pile of old magazines on the coffee table. It made no sense. I stared at it, my mind reeling. Was I losing my memory? Was I truly becoming so unstable that I couldn't keep track of my own important papers? The thought chilled me to the bone, making me question everything I knew about myself. The world spun. One moment, I was at Clara's harmless gathering, feeling a strange warmth from the mocktail she insisted I drink. The next, the room blurred, sounds became distant, and a wave of nausea hit me. My head felt heavy, my thoughts scattered. It was a sensation I knew too well, one I had fought so hard to forget. The craving wasn't just a whisper anymore. It was a roar, consuming everything. I felt myself slipping, an awful, crushing surrender. I woke up on a cold floor, the harsh fluorescent lights of an emergency room blinding me. Someone was talking, their words muffled. Shame, hot and immediate, washed over me. This was it. The nightmare I had fought for years had become real again, and it was public. My carefully built life, my sobriety, all of it seemed to shatter into a million pieces around me. I felt exposed, utterly broken, and the weight of what I had done, or what had been done to me, was crushing. Clara was there, her face a mask of concern. "Oh, Maya," she whispered, stroking my hair, "you scared us. Don't worry, I've got everything handled. Lily's safe with me. I'll take care of your finances, too, just until you're back on your feet." Her voice was soothing, but her words felt like chains. She was already moving, taking control, painting me as the helpless one to the nurses and doctors. I was too weak, too disoriented to fight back, to tell them she was wrong. The days that followed were a blur of shame and confusion. Every glance, every hushed conversation felt like a judgment. I blamed myself, replaying every moment, every decision, trying to understand how I could have let this happen. I had been so strong, so careful. Why now? Why like this? The self-blame was a heavy blanket, suffocating me, preventing me from seeing anything clearly. I felt like a failure, not just to myself, but to Lily. When I tried to ask about my discharge, about going home, Clara's kindness turned to a firm resistance. "Maya, you're not ready," she said, her voice laced with pity. "You need help. You're too unstable right now." She spoke as if my own thoughts were delusions. I tried to argue, to explain that I felt clearer now, that I needed to see Lily, but her words were a wall. She kept insisting I was fragile, confused, her words reinforcing the image she had built for everyone else. My phone was gone, my bank accounts frozen. Clara said it was for my own good, to prevent me from making rash decisions. Access to Lily became restricted for her safety. Clara would bring her for short, supervised visits, always hovering, always reinforcing that I was sick. My world was shrinking, my autonomy stripped away. The panic was a cold claw in my stomach. I was losing everything, and I felt powerless to stop it. I felt utterly alone, trapped in a nightmare I couldn't comprehend. My mind raced, trying to grasp what was happening. Was I truly losing my mind? Had my addiction truly made me so fragile that I couldn't trust my own perceptions? The disorientation was profound. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of confusion, with no land in sight. The world outside felt distant, and the walls of my care felt like a prison. One afternoon, during a brief visit, Lily came to me, her small hand clutching my shirt. "Aunt Clara says you're very sleepy, Mommy," she whispered, her eyes wide and troubled, "and that I need to be a good girl for her." My heart ached. Lily looked scared, confused. It wasn't just my life Clara was unraveling, it was Lily's too. Seeing her distress, seeing the subtle shift in her, ignited a spark of something fierce within me. Later that day, I heard Clara talking on the phone in the hallway, her voice low. "It's all going according to plan," she murmured. "She won't suspect a thing." A chill ran down my spine. The words were a jolt, a sudden, sharp crack in the carefully constructed reality Clara had built around me. It was just a fragment, but it felt wrong, chillingly so. My heart pounded, a new, terrifying thought blooming in my mind. The pieces started to click into place. The strange dreams, the pill bottle, the mocktails, the missing documents, Lily's changed behavior, Clara's suffocating help, her words on the phone. It wasn't an accident. This wasn't a relapse I chose. It was orchestrated. A cold, gut-wrenching realization dawned on me. My own sister had done this. She had pushed me back into the abyss. The shock was immense, quickly followed by a burning, icy rage. I had to find a way out, not just for me, but for Lily. The fragments of Clara's phone call, combined with Lily's troubled eyes, shattered the last of my confusion. My own sister had done this. The realization was a cold, hard punch to my gut, but with the shock came a fierce, burning resolve. I was not losing Lily. I would fight for her and for myself. This was no longer just about recovery. It was about survival, about uncovering the truth that threatened to destroy everything I loved. My first step was to check my finances. Clara had helped with so much. My hands trembled as I logged into my bank accounts. There were small, odd withdrawals and several transfers to an unfamiliar account, labeled vaguely as household expenses. It wasn't a lot of money, not yet, but it was enough to confirm my growing suspicion. A cold dread settled in my stomach. She had been chipping away at my security quietly, steadily. I knew I couldn't do this alone. I called Sarah, my old sponsor, a woman who had seen me through my darkest days. Her calm voice was a lifeline. "I think, Clara, she did something," I whispered, recounting everything, the dreams, the mocktails, the missing documents, her chilling phone call. Sarah listened without interruption. "Maya," she said softly, "trust your gut. You're strong. We'll figure this out." Her unwavering belief gave me a sliver of hope. The hardest decision was placing the cameras. It felt like an invasion, a betrayal of my own home, but I knew it was the only way to get undeniable proof. I ordered tiny, hidden devices online, the kind that looked like everyday objects. My hands shook as I set them up, one in the living room, another in the kitchen. I felt sick, but a quiet voice inside me said, "This is necessary." For Lily. I spent hours replaying every interaction with Clara. Her gifts, her accidents, her helpful suggestions. The old book with the vivid descriptions of my past life that suddenly appeared. The specific sugary soda in my fridge, the missing document, the mocktails she insisted I drink. Each memory, once innocent, now felt poisoned. A horrifying pattern emerged, clear and undeniable. She hadn't just helped. She had systematically set traps for me. My search led me to the kitchen, to the back of a rarely used cabinet. Tucked away behind some old spices, I found a small, unlabeled vial. It was almost empty. A bitter chemical smell clung to it. My stomach clenched. This was it. This was what she had put in my mocktails. My hands trembled as I held it, the proof of her malice chilling me to the bone. It was so small, so easy to hide, and so devastating. Then I found the documents, deep in my digital files, hidden within a folder labeled Lily's school records, was a modified version of my power of attorney. It gave Clara full control over my medical decisions and finances, should I be deemed incapacitated. It was dated a week before my relapse. My breath hitched. This wasn't just about money. It was about total control, about erasing me. The betrayal was so profound. It stole the air from my lungs. I confronted her. I showed her the vial, the altered document. Clara's face, usually so composed, fractured. Her eyes, usually so warm, turned cold and hard. "You were always so weak, Maya," she sneered, her voice dripping with contempt, "always needing help. I just made it official. You're better off this way. Lily is better off with me." Her words were a physical blow, confirming the depths of her calculated cruelty. The sister I loved was a stranger, a predator. The devastation was immense. My own flesh and blood had systematically engineered my downfall. The pain was unbearable, but it was quickly replaced by a fierce, cold determination. I would not let her win. I reached out to a lawyer Sarah recommended, starting to build my case in secret. Every piece of evidence, every memory, every recording would be used against her. I would fight for my life, for my child, for justice. That night, I crept into Lily's room. She was sleeping soundly, her small hand clutching her favorite stuffed animal. Tears streamed down my face, silent and hot. "I promise you, my love," I whispered, my voice thick with emotion, "Mommy will get you back. Mommy will expose the truth. This nightmare will end." My resolve was unshakable. The fight was just beginning, and I would not rest until Clara paid for what she had done. I sat across from the lawyer, the stack of evidence between us. Each photo, each document, was a piece of Clara's betrayal. It felt heavy, but also empowering. The lawyer's calm nods gave me strength. This was the first step to taking back my life. I felt a cold resolve settle in my heart. This was for Lily, and for every moment Clara tried to steal from us. The next call was to my bank. Freezing Clara's access was a small victory, but a crucial one. I felt a surge of relief, mixed with anger at how easily she had tried to take what was mine. It was a clear boundary, a line drawn in the sand. I was reclaiming my financial autonomy, piece by piece. This was my money, my future, and she would not touch it again. Walking into my recovery meeting felt different that day. I shared my story, not just about the relapse, but about the betrayal. The silence in the room was heavy, then came the outpouring of support. It was a lifeline. Their understanding, their shared strength, reminded me I was not alone. It felt like a warm embrace after a long, cold night, a true community rallying around me. The plan for Clara's public downfall began to form in my mind. It wasn't about revenge and anger, but about justice. I wanted everyone to see the truth, to understand the depths of her manipulation. It felt like a heavy burden, but also a necessary one. I knew it would be hard, but I was ready. I needed to protect others from her and reclaim my name. I arranged a family meeting, a controlled environment where the truth would be laid bare. It was a risk, but a calculated one. My heart pounded with a mix of fear and anticipation. I wanted our family to see the real Clara, not the perfect image she had crafted. This was the moment of reckoning, the point where all her carefully constructed lies would unravel. Clara arrived, her smile too wide, her denials already forming. But I was ready. As she spoke, I calmly presented the evidence. The camera footage, the vile analysis, the altered documents. Her face twisted, the mask finally falling. The silence in the room was deafening. It felt like a dam breaking, the truth finally rushing out, leaving her exposed and speechless. Shock rippled through the room. My parents, who had always favored Clara, looked lost, confused. Then, slowly, understanding dawned. Their faces showed disbelief, then sadness, then a quiet anger. My other relatives began to gather around me, offering comfort. It was painful but necessary. The truth had set us free, even if it hurt, and Clara's reign of manipulation was over. Later, I sat with Lily, explaining in simple words that Mommy had been sick but was better now. I told her Aunt Clara had made some bad choices, but that it wasn't Lily's fault. Her small arms wrapped around me, a silent understanding passing between us. Rebuilding her trust was my most important work. Her sense of security was everything, and I would protect it fiercely. I started to share parts of my story online, carefully, cautiously. It was terrifying, but also liberating. Each word I typed was a step towards reclaiming my narrative. I wanted to help others, to show them that betrayal, even from family, could be overcome. It was a slow process, but each message of support felt like a small victory, a piece of my voice returning. My first therapy session was a release. I talked about Clara, about the betrayal, about the long road back to myself. It wasn't just about sobriety anymore. It was about healing from a wound so deep it had threatened to erase me. The therapist's quiet understanding was a balm. I knew the journey was long, but I was no longer fighting alone. This was my new beginning, my true recovery, and the start of my future. The courtroom was quiet. The judge spoke calmly, but her words felt like thunder. Clara was ordered to pay back every penny and more. There would be investigations into criminal charges, too. I felt a wave of relief wash over me, mixed with a deep sadness that it had come to this. Justice, finally, but at such a cost. The papers were signed. Lily was officially back in my full care. No more supervised visits, no more Clara hovering. My bank accounts were fully mine again. I held the documents tightly, feeling the weight of my reclaimed life. It was a victory, but a quiet one. I knew the real work was just beginning, rebuilding what was broken. I sent a final, short message to Clara's lawyer. It stated clearly that all contact was to cease, immediately and permanently. It felt like cutting a toxic cord that had bound me for my whole life. There was no joy in it, only a profound sense of peace. My family with Lily was my priority now, and Clara had no place in it. The news spread. Legal documents were public, and a local reporter I trusted helped me share my story, carefully, without sensationalism. I spoke about the manipulation, the gaslighting, the weaponized vulnerability. It was terrifying to be so open, but I knew it was necessary to protect others and to reclaim my truth. The public needed to know. Clara's carefully built world began to crumble. Friends distanced themselves. Her professional reputation was shattered. I heard stories of her isolation, her anger. It wasn't the revenge I once craved, but the natural consequence of her choices. She had chosen to destroy, and now she faced the destruction of her own making. I felt no triumph, only a quiet understanding of karma. My pain found a new purpose. I started speaking at recovery groups, then at larger events. I talked about betrayal, about the unique challenges of family manipulation in addiction. Sharing my story, raw and honest, helped others feel less alone. It was healing for me too, transforming my suffering into a source of strength for someone else. My voice grew stronger with each word. I was no longer the addict or the victim. I was Maya, a survivor, a mother, a woman who had faced unimaginable betrayal and found her way back. My identity was forged in resilience, truth, and courage. It was a slow process, shedding old labels, but each day I felt more like myself, the real me, unburdened by past shame or Clara's lies. I learned to trust again, first myself, then a small, loyal circle of friends and my sponsor, Sarah. They were the family I chose, the ones who saw me, truly saw me without judgment. We built a new kind of trust, based on honesty and unwavering support. It taught me that family isn't just blood. It's love, respect, and true connection. Lily and I built our new life, brick by brick. Our home was filled with laughter, art, and the quiet rhythm of our days. We planted a small garden together, watching new life grow from the soil. Every morning, seeing her bright eyes, I knew I had done the right thing. We were safe, finally, and truly free to be ourselves. The journey had left scars, deep ones, but also a profound wisdom. I understood the depths of human cruelty, but also the boundless capacity for resilience. I found lasting peace, not through the idea of revenge, but through justice, through healing, and through the absolute reclamation of myself. My story was not one of victimhood, but of profound strength. I was finally home within myself.